Welcome to Gurukul Lectures. In the ongoing series of team development and leadership, today we will be talking more on leadership styles. Leadership style is an art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal, encouraging and helping the others to work enthusiastically towards objectives. We have discussed in the previous lectures about various types of leadership styles which we will be taking forward in this part of my presentation. We discussed in the previous lecture about the leadership styles given by Alan Keith, given by the various authors, like we are talking about the transformational leadership, the transactional leadership, the leadership styles, how they affect and influence the followers and how they increase the organizational effectiveness and performance. We discussed, according to Chung, what were the leadership styles, the management grid, the authoritative leadership, the various participatory styles of leadership, and the key components of the management and the leadership styles, the various attitudes which are important in this regard. We discussed the Rennes-Likert scale, wherein the four types of leadership were discussed, that is the exploitative leadership, benevolent leadership, consultative leadership, participatory leadership. We discussed about the management grid, about the 9 continuum, and variously we discussed about the Robert Blake and the Mountain, the drivers of the managerial action, etc. So basically this reveals that there were 5 fundamental management styles: improvised management in terms of the management grid, authority obedience, the country club leadership, and basically the team leadership. So all these aspects, the middle road of the management, were discussed at length in the previous lecture. So let us now discuss about after the situational leadership, we have various other leadership styles which are very pertinent and relevant in the present realm because of the crisis, because of the dynamism which is happening, and the environment around us is changing every now and then. So to have a very effective leadership is very, very important. So a good leadership style, a situational leadership especially is being appraised and applauded and embraced across the globe. For this, the situational leader must have the insights, the flexibility, the problem solving skill, and the coaching skills. So let us now discuss the different styles of leadership which are very, very pertinent in the present realm and the context. So let us now discuss the transactional leadership styles. The transactional leadership relies more about the trades between the leader and the follower, by which the followers are compensated for meeting the specific goals or the performance criteria. The transactional leadership in the organization plays an exchange role between the managers and the subordinates. In the year 1970 and 80, the transactional model of leadership was very dominant. This is based on an exchange between a leader and the follower, where the interest of both the parties are served. The efforts made by the followers to achieve the organizational aims are exchanged for a specific rewards, which may be financial or a non-financial. While the idea of transactional leadership may lack the dynamism of other approaches, it may well be of a case that is accurately describes the practice in many workplaces. Additionally, this type of leadership can be particularly effective in emergency or conflicting situations when all the parties are able to see a tangible benefit. The transactional leader will first validate the relationship between the performance and the reward and then exchange it for an appropriate response that encourages the subordinates to improve the performance. The transactional leadership style is understood to be exchange of the rewards and the targets between the employees and the management. Now, Bass and Evolio explained that transactional leader, they motivate the subordinates through the use of a contingent rewards, corrective actions, and the rule enforcement. Bass Bernard explained that the transactional leadership depends on the contingent reinforcement, either positive, contingent reward, or the more negative, active or the passive forms of the management by exception. The transactional leaders, they motivate the followers through exchange, for example, accomplishing work in exchange for the rewards or the preferences. Kahai group efficacy was the higher under the transactional leadership condition. According to Burns, the leadership transactional tends to be focusing more on the task completion and the employee compliance, and these leaders rely quite heavily on the organizational rewards and the punishment to influence the employee performance. The next is your transformational leadership explained further. The term transformational leadership was first used by James Downton in 1973 and was popularized by James McGregor Burns in his work of a book, Leadership, way back in 1978. It remains the predominant leadership approach in the literature and has also had a significant impact on the way that the modern leaders they behave. The transformational leadership involves the engagement of the followers, and therefore the transformational leaders are often charismatic. The accounts of the transformational leaders differ, but most focus on how the leaders can fulfill the developmental needs of their followers. In the uncertain times, it has been suggested the employees want to feel inspired and empowered by their leaders, and therefore the transformational leadership fits well with the modern age. The transformational leadership focuses on both the growth and the needs of the followers. With the preamble of their skills, the managers with transformational leadership styles, it focuses on the growth and advancement of the employees' belief systems, inspirational levels, and the moralities. According to Bass, the goal of the transformational leadership is to transform the individuals, institutions in the literal sense, to change them, their mind and heart by expanding their vision, perceptive and understanding, clarifying their motives and bringing about the changes that are very lasting, self-perpetuating and momentous creating. Now, Bass and Avivilo, transformational leadership occurs when the leaders broaden their horizon and they champion the interest of their workers, and when they raise the awareness and the acceptance of the organizational intent and the mission, and when they bring employees together to look beyond their own self-interest for the benefit of their group. Now, according to Bass and Avivilo, transformational leadership encourages the followers to view the problems from the new perspective, provides support and encouragement, communicates a vision, stimulates the emotion and identification. Now, according to Bruce, transformational leaders are able to define and articulate a vision for their organizations. Their leadership styles can influence or transform individual level variables such as increasing the motivation, organizational level variables such as mediating conflict among the groups or the teams. The podcasts disclosed the transformational leadership had active influence on individual and organizational outcomes such as employee satisfaction and performance. Higher levels of transformational leadership were first associated with the higher levels of group potency. Now we have another type of leadership style which we call it as a genuine leadership. Recent corporate, financial and the governmental scandals and the misbehavior have sparked the interest in the related concept of authentic leadership. This focuses on the leadership style being sincere, truthful and trustworthy. In order for their followers to see them as genuine, authentic leaders must live their beliefs, demonstrating that they practice what they preach. The self-awareness is an important part of the genuine leadership, but there is also a heavy focus on knowing others and the understanding the organizational culture. This allows you to strike a right balance between yourself fitting into your business or the organization. Rob Goffey and Gareth Jones, as well as Bill George, are the key writers of this kind of leadership, what is called as authentic leadership. Now let us talk about the autocratic and authoritarian type of a leadership style. Managers, they retain the power. This is also called as the classical approach. All the decision making is centralized. The manager does not consult the employees for any kind of an input or advice. It is the leader or the manager himself that takes the decision. Everything is focal, central, nucleus, and there is no advice or any kind of a consultative aspects or perspectives which they take from any kind of an employee. Subordinates they are expected to obey the orders without any kind of an explanation, because whatever orders they get, they have this kind of a statement that you are directed to do this. So when it is a direction, it is that you are expected to obey the orders as and when you receive. The motivation in this kind of leadership, which is called as an authoritarian leadership, is provided through a structured reward and the punishment. The authoritative leadership is often considered the classical approach, but this leadership style has been greatly criticized during the past 3 decades. Often it is referred to as the authoritative style or a directive style, and it relies heavily as old ideas and beliefs. Now, if you put simply, the style communication, the leader is the boss. Simply, often the people tend to think of this style as a vehicle for yelling, using demeaning language, leading by threats, and abuse of the power. Those ideas are not the authoritative style, but the structure and the limited follower participation leaves one not to be surprised by those, acquisitions. The main ideas that circulate around the authoritative and autocratic leadership are: it uses the classical approach, where the manager retains as much as power and the decision-making authority as possible. The managers does not consult the employees, nor are they allowed to give any kind of an input. So there is only one-way communication flow. That is from top to bottom. That is only the directions, the orders, and the objectives they have to achieve strictly in the line of command. Subordinates are generally expected to obey the orders without any explanations, even if they have something concrete, some good concrete suggestion, because it's an hands-on, they are facing and they can very well relate to how to solve the problem. Still they are not allowed. Their domain is very limited to just obeying the orders. The motivational environment is produced by creating a very structured set of rewards and the punishments. Notice that the description of the autocratic leaders use the term managers. Autocratic leadership fits nicely in the ideas of the management, where it is expected that the subordinate obedience results from the orders and the expectations set by the leaders. On the flip side, if you see, the term subordinate is used, showing that the relationship between the leaders and the followers is strictly the business. Some studies say that organizations with many autocratic leaders have high turnover and absenteeism than other organizations. Certainly, Generation X employees have proven to be highly resistant to this management style. These studies say that autocratic leaders, they rely on the threats and the punishment to influence their employees. They do not trust the employees, do not allow for the employee input. Yet, the autocratic leadership is not at all bad. Something is very effective style is used. The managers does not consult the employees, nor are they allowed to give any input. There is only one-way communications, and they are generally expected to obey the orders without any explanation. The motivation, as I have already addressed, is being taken care of by the structured set of rewards and the punishments, and the descriptions of autocratic leaders use the term managers, and definitely it highly fits where the subordinate obedience is of prime importance without any kind of a concept. The flip side also, the subordinate is used, showing that relationship between the leaders and the followers is strictly the business. They do not discuss anything else here except the business. Some studies say that organizations with many autocratic leaders have shown the higher turnover and absenteeism because people have inherent disliking to be clutched and to be directed. And Generation X, they show a high resistance level. Now, these studies say that autocratic leaders rely more on threats and punishment. They do not trust their employees. They do not allow to give any kind of an input, and sometimes it is most effective leadership styles. So there is a question which comes to the mind of everyone that we have discussed at length. So many bad and good features of the autocratic leadership. So in what conditions the autocratic leadership should be used? So when to use the autocratic, new and untrained employees. Employees are motivated, employees do not respond to any other kind of a leadership style, and there is a high volume of production needs, and there is a limited time for decision making. Now we have discussed as of now so many different styles of leadership, the management grid, the autocratic, the consultative, etc. But it is very important, there are some preconditions which we have to keep in mind, that when we have adopted the various styles of leadership and the results are demotivating and we are not able to achieve the results, the targets are very high, the production needs are very high, and we have to take the decision making in a very limited span of time. So in that case, this kind of a leadership style is very effective. The manager's powers is challenged by an employee, and in reality the autocratic style should normally only be used in a very rare conditions, because it is not being liked and there is a high level of criticism across the globe for last 3 decades. Having said that, there are always situations where quick and confident decision is needed, and in other situations there may be a factor such as the followers development, the knowledge level, the skill level, and leave the leaders with few other choices than to use the style. The autocratic leadership style should not be used when employees become tense, they become fearful, they become resentful, and the employees expect to have their own opinion heard. Employees being depending on their manager to make all their decisions. So there is a low employee morale, high turnover, absenteeism, and the work stoppage. So let us look at some of the examples where autocratic leadership might be used. It might be used in the schools, by the parents, and where are some places and the organizations where we might need autocratic leaders, like many military leaders are considered autocratic leaders. And why would it be advantageous to use an autocratic style in the military? The prison system almost have to use an autocratic style along with other places where it is too risky to leave anything questionable and unanswered. The factories often require high volume of production on a daily basis, and we often see the autocratic leadership style used to increase the efficiency levels. Another type of leadership style which we are discussing now is a bureaucratic manager, that is, managers by the book. Everything must be done according to the procedure or the policy, and if it isn't covered by the book, the manager refers to the next level above him or her police officer more than a leader. You want your organization to keep their nose out of trouble? Find a bureaucratic leader. He will just go as per the laws, as per the book, as per the rules, as per the regulations. The bureaucratic leader is where the manager manages by the book. Everything must fall according to the procedure or the policy. If it is not covered by the book, the manager reveals to the next level above him. When considering the leadership traits, integrity is often listed as one of the most valuable traits a leader could demonstrate the meaning of integrity beautifully. When do we need a leader with an abundance of integrity, and when do we want a bureaucratic leader? Performing a routine task, need for the standards, procedures, use of the dangerous or the delicate equipment, safety or security training being conducted task, it requires the handling cash. The bureaucratic style is most effective when there is a need to be concerned about the procedure, safety, specific technical task. This style is ineffective when work habits form and are hard to break, especially if they are of no longer useful and the employees lose their interest in their jobs and in their fellow workers. Employees do only what is expected of them and no more. Now, who are the bureaucratic leaders? Can you think of some bureaucratic leaders? Police were already mentioned, administrative problems and positions. Where are some places, organizations where we might need bureaucratic leaders? The law enforcement absolutely needs a bureaucratic leaders. In their profession, law enforcers do not have a room to wiggle their toes, and they must be sure to do their I's and cross their T's. And it is important to consider how important it is the organization that are funded by the state tax dollars and rupees to have some bureaucratic leaders to monitor and lead others to be efficient and effective. Anytime there is an exchange of the money or something is required to manage the money, we hope to have bureaucratic leaders or the people with bureaucratic skills in those positions. On the side note, what kind of connections might there be between a bureaucratic leader and the stress management? It keeps the employees informed, shares their decision making and the problem solving responsibilities. Coach has the final say. This is about a participatory style. This is the style which is welcomed all across the globe because it is a kind of, joint management, problem solving responsibilities which is being shared. The participatory leader, he coaches also, who has the final say, but gathers the information from the staff members before taking any kind of a decision. Like the other styles, the democratic or the participatory style is not always appropriate but has many valuable benefits. It is most successful when used with highly skilled or experienced employees or when implementing operational changes or resolving individual or the group problems. Because a democratic leader welcomes team input and facilitates the group discussion, it is often referred to as a participatory leadership style. The democratic leaders are constantly keeping employees informed about the matters that affect them. They are consistently sharing the plans with the group and offering the multiple options for the group considerations. Even though the democratic leader still makes the final decisions, they use the coaching style to encourage the followers to take a part in influencing and guiding the decision-making process. Generally, after making a final decision, the leader will consult the followers, gathers the information from them, and they are also a great quality about a democratic leadership style, and the list is unexhaustive. It allows the employees to establish the goals, establishes the employees to grow on the job and to be promoted, recognizes and encourages the achievement, can produce a high quality and high quantity work for long period of time. One of the interesting idea about the democratic leader is the use of a coach style of leadership. Not only is the leader concerned about being effective or efficient, they are also concerned about the development of their followers through their task. The democratic leaders commonly work with the followers to help them set the goals, not only for their organization, but the personal achievement goals as well. Democratic leaders encourages the growth in the employees' followers by encouraging them to work freely with each other and leave the division of the task to the group, allowing a more sharing and a collaborative amongst the followers or the group members. Now, the democratic leader continue to help the employees evaluate their own performance, and in order to continuously encourage the growth, the democratic leader make it a point to praise and offer constructive criticism. In addition, they will join in a group activities without over participation. So, to encourage the employees to share in the decision making and the problem solving, to provide the opportunities for a high sense of a personal growth and the job satisfaction. Now, when to use the democratic to keep the employees informed? Because of the complex problems, they require a lot of input. To encourage the team building and participation, the democratic leadership style allows for a multiple viewpoints, inputs and the participation while still maintaining the control and the leadership role. A qualitative democratic leader will recognize each member's strength and effectively encourage the best from each other. And it is important for the leader to be able to recognize those strengths and focuses on the needs of the group members. On the other hand, it is sometimes a challenge for a democratic leader to recognize that not all tasks need to be handled by the group, and that sometimes the leader should be appropriately addressing some of the issues along. The democratic leader should not be used when there is not enough time to get everyone's input. When the time is short, it is time bound. So a manager feels threatened by this type of leadership, and sometimes the employee safety is a critical concern. Obviously, our country was founded out of democratic leaders. Our government acts as a democracy and encourages the involvement and allows every person to do that. Does this mean that all our political leaders are democratic leaders? A democratic leadership style is also commonly used in situations when the leaders need to and wants to encourage the team building. And there is no better way to encourage the true team collaborations than allowing the members to be actively involved in the group process and decision making. The next type of leadership is free rein, that is, a leadership allows a free hand and can be very useful in business where the creative ideas are very important, when the team is highly motivated and basically it relies on a good teamwork. So this is how we are based on a task versus people emphasis. If you see on the right side, the more emphasis is on the task. If you see on the left or the y-axis, we have people emphasis, more on that. If we are emphasizing more on the task, then the autocratic style. If we are emphasizing more on the people, then we have a free rein style. Then we have the entrepreneurial, leadership style, that is the heavy task orientation combined with a very direct approach to give instructions to the employees, a charismatic personality that inspires others to business with him, and a strong interest dealing with the customers than the employees, a strong disliking for the bureaucratic rules and the regulations. So, the last is your path goal theory. Here the leader's job is to use a structure, support, reward to create the work environment that helps the employees reach the organizational goals. So, with all these aspects and the various styles of the leadership, it is on the intellect of the leader who will decide which leadership style will suit which type of an organization, and depending upon his intellect, intent, dedication, commitment, he is going to take the organization forward.